All right. Hello, everybody. I'm BMillzebub, and welcome to another Apostate interviews. Tonight, I am, let's see if I can pronounce his last name correctly, Kyle Steenblick. Am I anywhere close?
Absolutely. Yep. Right.
Awesome.
Right on.
All right. Kyle Steenblick from the Utah Outcasts. How you doing tonight, Kyle?
I'm doing pretty good. We're just
Awesome.
getting ready for a show tonight. So we go live in about 3 hours.
Oh, man. Nice.
Yeah.
So, yeah, a few hours from now, definitely head
Mm-hmm.
over to the Utah Outcast and see Kyle again. Because, I mean, come on. Who wouldn't want to see this guy more than once a day? Come on. But yeah, I like to open and close all of my interviews the same way. So could you talk about yourself a little bit and the channel you're involved with?
Sure. So let's start with Utah Outcasts. It's a fun little show we've put together. We've been doing it about almost 5 years now, I think. So it really started out with me and X trying to decide what kind of podcast we want to do. We used to do another show which was rooted in a media entertainment channel that we ran. So we did a podcast which was really it never went anywhere. I think we had all of like 5 or 6 listeners. So really it was just an excuse for us to sit around for hours on end and talk with friends and try to one up each other with completely inappropriate jokes and humor. But then we decided we kind of needed to actually put something out there that was somewhat worth listening to. So we had been running through topics and subjects that we wanted to tackle, things that we felt not only did we want to talk about, but needed to be talked about. So X and I both being really out and outspoken atheists decided, oh well, that's what the world needs, another atheist podcast. So that's where we start. That was our starting point. We met Felicia through a local atheist group and brought her in because she expressed some interest. We had brought a couple other people in to begin with, but that ultimately didn't work out, as does tend to happen with a lot of shows. So we brought her in, slowly became friends, and the format of the show kind of evolved from there. Uh, it started off with, let's tackle atheist topics, maybe become another one of those debate shows. But it became pretty apparent quickly that that is not the show that we had, and that is not the direction we wanted to go. So it really just became, let's just try to entertain each other talking about current events and talking about subjects that we want to tackle. So we kind of developed this loose format of we will just talk about whatever we want to talk about and throw in and pepper it with current events and fun stories or funny stories. But really, all it is the three of us deciding to get together every week and really trying to survive this crazy life that we all have. As for me, talking about myself is the least interesting thing I could possibly talk about. Uh, I'm a writer. I've been a film critic for about 10 years now. I've moved on to also I've written and published a children's book. Odd as that sounds to a lot of people, but I have, and it does well. People like it, and I'm working on a few other projects there as well. I have written for the Queer Review, I've done film reviews for them. Still doing film reviews for them. I am doing articles and op-eds for Bleeding Cool on my former website, Watch Play Read. No longer around. It couldn't survive the onslaught of the big media machine that is the internet. There's so much content out there. We just couldn't keep it going. But it held on for good 12 years. That's pretty much where I am right now. What else? What do you want to know? What else do you want to know?
I mean, I'm actually kind of curious about that children's book.
Yeah.
Like, considering some of the stuff I hear on the Utah Outcasts, it's you seem a little not quite so appropriate for children.
So I am a dad. I've got 2 kids. The book itself kind of started off with their bedtime stories. They got a little tired of getting those cardstock storybooks read to them at night, and I'm a storyteller. I have a lot more fun making up and telling stories than reading the same book 15 times a night. So that's what I did. I just started to sit down and make up stories, just kind of on the fly. Ask them, okay, what do you want? And make up a story based off whatever crazy idea a 3-year-old throws out there. But that's kind of the genesis of that book. So it's a story about 2 kids who go on adventures, and it's ridiculous and crazy and a lot of fun. And I'm working on more of them.
All right. What's the title, and where can people find it?
So the title is this first book is called the Tales of Weirderland, that's actually what my kids decided to call these stories. When I asked them, okay, well, what do you want to call these? They said, oh, it's a Weirderland. Cool. And it stuck. I mean, it was all right. Whatever. That's a weird name for something, but we'll go with it. But that stuck. So yeah, the first volume of those stories is out there. You can find it in bookstores if they stock it. Most of them don't. Let's be honest. I don't have a big enough name for Barnes and Noble to actually stock it in stores, but you can find it on the website. So yeah, Barnes and Noble online, Amazon, pretty much any online retailer, you can find my little book.
All right. And just so everybody knows, I actually posted a link to your website. Would the book be on that as well?
There are some links to the online retailers. I don't really retail the book myself online, simply because that's such a friggin' pain. Come on, I'm not going to set up a storefront to sell my book. Although, there is a PayPal link there. If you want to go through PayPal and buy a book, I will mail you a copy. I think I've had 3 people do that. Most people want to go through Amazon because Amazon doesn't charge you for shipping. I will, because shipping isn't free.
That's fair. But yeah, I mean, like I said, there's a link down in the description to Kyle here's website, and there are links to other retailers where you won't be charged shipping, which is awesome for you, and Kyle gets a piece for writing a book.
I do get a piece. I mean, the downside is, hey, if you go through an online retailer, I get less commission than if you buy it directly from me. But I'm not going to begrudge anybody. I actually didn't write it and publish it to try to make money off of. That's the crazy part about most writers. We don't write to really make a living off of it. We write because we don't know what else to do with the crap that's bouncing around in our heads.
So it's a labor of love kind of thing, and
it is.
Get out of here.
It is. I could go on, make up stories about how, I did this for my kids so that they would have it, but honestly, if I really just did it for my kids, I would just print it and staple it together and say, "Here you go."
Are there any Weirder Land sequels coming out or prequels?
Yeah, yeah, no, there is a second volume of stories that I'm working on, and hope to have finished within the next year, or
Awesome.
hope to have published within the next year. Finished is a relative term.
I mean, are you thinking it's going to be a trilogy, or are you gonna try to just keep it going as long as your kids keep pitching ideas at you?
We'll see. That's the difficult thing to know. You never really know when you're done.
It's a fair point. But yeah, once again, I am absolutely gonna shill out your website, head over there, either make Kyle do a little bit of work and order it directly from him, or one of the other retailers he's got linked there.
Oh yeah, please shill away.
Yeah, I didn't figure you would argue too much with that. So let's hop into your past a little bit. What religion did you grow up having pushed on you?
So I grew up in a Mormon household, which really sounds weird to even say, because even growing up in that religion, my family was not very observant. We were always pretty bad Mormons. I was probably the worst one of all. But yeah, no, we grew up, pretty immersed in it. I spent most of my time growing up in Utah, and extended family out of state. They were Mormon too, so that was just the normal thing. When you're a kid, you don't ever think about it. We're just, hey, we're Mormon. That's what we are. That's the thing. Default settings. Don't give it second thoughts. But I did. I gave everything a second thought. I was a shit kid. I annoyed everybody with questions and things that didn't quite line up or make sense to me. So it didn't last. It didn't really stick very well. At least for most of my family now at this point in time has grown away from it. All my siblings, my dad in the last few years of his life, drifted away quite substantially. So yeah, that was me, the bad Mormon most of my life, until I wasn't.
I actually was gonna make a joke about you having an atypical life growing up in Utah. The joke being that everyone in Utah is Mormon, but being a bad Mormon, I think, would probably be atypical in Utah.
It's not as unusual as it sounds. Really, the vast majority of Mormons in Utah are really shit Mormons. Like, they're really bad at it. I mean, once a week they're pretty good at it, but the rest of the time, not so much.
Hmm.
They, and I imagine that's probably pretty similar to most religions. Most people are really bad at whatever particular religion they're subscribed to. Very small percentage of people actually adhere to all of the dogmatic beliefs that they have.
Yeah, the Catholic Church actually has a term for people that do the bare minimum. It's cradle Catholics.
Yeah,
So you were like the equivalent of Mormonism.
yeah. Essentially, that's kind of where I was, or where my family was anyway. Yeah.
All right.
I mean, you go to church, but really, it starts off with you go to church, but you only go for the 1 hour, not the 3 fucking hours every week that they want.
Oh. I mean, come on, it's church. Who wouldn't want to be talked at for 3 hours? I mean, is that a good approximation of what the 3 hours is? Is just being talked at?
Yeah, in varying levels. The Mormon Church, it's a little weird the way they have it set up. I say it's weird, like I have this vast exposure to the actual practices of other religions, rather than just a casual acquaintance with them. In the Mormon Church, all of the all of your local figureheads, all of your local bishopric and teachers, everybody involved, they are all it's all lay people. None of them have any actual knowledge of the subject. They're basically just volunteers who were told, "Hey, you're going to do this." So they take a like the teacher's edition of whatever Book of Mormon, Bible that they're trying to teach. So they've got Reader's Digest version of all these stories, and annotations. So they're all reading off of a same book, but these weird differences happen when they go off book, and you get these weird unofficial teachings that just course through the culture. So you go through they have different sessions in their church and their Sunday services. So you have your big meetings, and then you split off into different age groups for different classes, and then you reconvene for other smaller big meetings. It's really freaking bonkers the way they do it. But it breaks things down to the point where when you're a kid and you're going through and you have these adult authority figures telling you things, you assume that the adult authority figure might know something of what they're talking about. Presumably, that's kind of the way it went. Me being the little hellion shit I was, I never assumed that any adult telling me anything knew exactly what they were talking about, and I would just berate them with questions until they asked me to leave. I mean, that's pretty much my childhood experience with Sunday schools and church programs. I berate them with questions until they ask me to leave.
Well, yeah, I mean, that kind of thing is kind of annoying to religion. Don't like the question.
Yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult to receive questions, especially questions you can't answer. One of the big things for me, and I wish I remembered exactly how old I was at this point, because it would make the story a lot more interesting. But I had to be somewhere in the 8-year-old to 12-year-old range. But it was a point in time where I realized, because it was coming up in discussion, it had really occurred to me that there were not only multiple translations of the Bible, because of course I understood that there were multiple translations because there are multiple languages in the world, so of course it's going to be retranslated all over.
Yeah.
But multiple different versions. So not only is it being translated, it's being translated differently. So yeah. This was like my first red flag. And the first time I just sat there going, wait, if there are multiple different versions and multiple different translations, and you're saying we've got the right one, how do you know we've got the right one? And, even to the point where I'm like, well, have we read all the other ones? Do we have the original translations? Like, can we check it? Like, I have no concept of the idea of, like real process of independent verification, or approaching things from a skeptical mindset, looking at things in that way where it's, let's look at the original and compare it to the translation and see how it works. No idea. It was just the first thought that came to my head was, if these are different, why are they different? And that doesn't seem right. You can't tell me something's a divine translation or a divine interpretation or divinely inspired if it's different. You have different people that received different divine interpretations or inspirations. That doesn't seem right. And you would think if there's a divine omnipotent figurehead that is providing this kind of information, they would have some concept of independent verification. They would be able to say, here's the original transcript, and now make sure 3 different people see this without talking to each other first.
Yeah, and I think you would have a much lower use of idioms, especially. Like 40 days and 40 nights just in ancient Hebrew was, it was a long time, dude.
Yeah.
Or talking about Ted Cruz. There was a sociologist who actually tried to figure out why people hated his face so much, and the German compound word he used was Backpfeifengesicht, which translated into English means a face in need of a good punch.
Yeah, he does have a very punchable face. That's not one you're going to figure out. Why does his face look that way? It just does.
Yeah, and I mean it's a thing with idioms. When you translate it to a language that it doesn't initially belong to, it loses meaning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So to ancient Jews, 40 days and 40 nights was just, it's a really long time, dude.
Mm-hmm.
But to people like Ken Ham, it's 40 days and 40 nights.
Yeah, they take it literally.
Yeah.
Which is really, really weird, because in a historical context, if you look at the writings, and if you look at everything that came from that area of the world at that point in time, the idea of anything being literal when it was written down didn't exist. That was a foreign concept. They did not write things literally. They didn't write, factual reports of things. They used idioms. They used allegory. They used metaphor. That's just how they recorded and communicated.
Took the words right out of my mouth.
Yeah.
I mean, very literally, you took the words right. I use a metaphor to describe a literal thing.
Yep.
Almost like the ancient people.
Yeah, ancient people. They had no idea of how to take things literally.
Yeah.
Literally.
So, Doorknob Head has a couple of questions. The first one is just, obviously to be funny. What makes them bad Mormons? They don't smile creepily at all times?
Oh no, they smile very creepily at all times. They're bad Mormons because 6 days out of the week they don't do Mormon things. There's an old joke. Well, there are a couple of old jokes. One of my favorites being, why do you always take 2 Mormons fishing with you? Because if you only take one, he's going to drink all your beer. And my other favorite is, what does one Mormon say to the other Mormon in the liquor store? Nothing. They just pretend they didn't see each other.
Oh.
So they have all of these rules that they impose, but they focus more on imposing those rules on others rather than themselves. So, yeah, 6 days out of the week, they're bad Mormons. I was the worst Mormon because I broke the biggest rule, which was questioning authority. Mm.
Yeah. So you're one of those no good types of people,
Oh yeah, one of those. I was always one of those no good kids who always said, "What? Why?"
Oh. I don't know how many people here watch the really old show that half of my viewers probably have not heard of, MASH. Frank
I
Burns would not approve.
love Mash. Absolutely love Mash.
Fantastic.
Mash is a classic show. If you haven't watched it, uh, how can you even TV really?
I don't know.
No, there's so much. MASH was such a cultural phenomenon. The humor and style of that TV show permeated through culture. And if you really want to understand how any TV show can be funny, you need to go back and watch that just to see how it was done.
Yeah, modernized humor in a big way.
Oh God, and it's beautiful, beautiful. There's beautiful satire in it. They borrowed so much from Catch 22. Yeah, Catch 22. Borrowed so much from that. It's a really important show, and one of the best sources of original good old sitcom humor. And damn, they can make you cry still.
Oh yeah, like a couple of nights ago, I watched the spoiler alert for the weirdos out there that have not seen MASH yet. The episode where Henry Blake gets his orders to go home, and at the very end of the episode, they punch you right in the gut by saying that his plane was shot down over the Sea of Japan and he died.
Oh yeah, of course they
Damn
did.
near cried like a baby, and I've seen that episode like 4 times. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. If you didn't cry when Henry left or when Radar left, yeah, you're not human.
yeah, yeah. I mean, shit. The first time I ever saw that episode, I cried like a baby.
Oh yeah.
Uh, but this is your interview, not Henry Blake.
Okay. Yeah, we're
So,
not talking about MASH. Okay.
well, I mean, it's my fault we deviated that way, but I'll own the blame. I'll take it. But the other question Doorknob Head has was, so knowledge of the subject might be considered detrimental.
Oh yeah, very much so. Especially with Mormonism. The more you know about the subject, the more likely you are to say fuck this and leave. Because it is such apparent bullshit when you get past a lot of surface details. The second you put together pieces of the Joseph Smith story, as soon as you understand that it was really just a variation of the same con he had been running for years in upstate New York, searching for treasure and fortune telling, all of these, he had been practicing this for a long time. So the more you learn, the more likely you are to just run away from it. So yeah, it is very detrimental to know anything at all about the subject.
Oh. Yeah, I mean, it seems like it. I mean, reading first of all, a gold tablet, really?
Well, yeah, let's just gloss over the fact that, how heavy would that actually have to be? You would not be able to move that as a single person with the volume of text that had to be engraved in that. Yeah, you wouldn't be able to move that at all. No way. Plus the fact that I don't engraving anything in gold and then burying it is a terrible idea. First off, the bottom plates would just compress under the weight of the entire stack to the point where you couldn't read it. Terrible idea. Nobody would ever do that. Nobody has ever done that beyond something ornate and decorative used with, pharaohs. but nobody writes books in gold. It's ridiculous. I mean, the paper technology existed. It did.
For
They
quite some time.
people had paper, but then again, this is the same guy who also came up with stories about horses, and called tapirs horses. So, grain of salt, really.
Oh. Yeah. I actually have a friend. Her channel name is Tria Tehal, and her logo is a tapir for exactly that reason.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I mean, what do you think would be the craziest, most or ridiculous thing about Mormonism?
God, I don't know. There's so much that's really just out there weird about it. The tapir thing is pretty freaking weird. Uh, the idea of this tiered heaven. So their concept of the afterlife is that you have, three kingdoms of heaven, and depending on how devout you were, depending on how good you were, how well you stuck to the rules, you would go to one of these three awesome kingdoms. And it's like Joseph Smith was like this pioneer of multi-level marketing pyramid schemes. He ingrained it in their religion. It's just fucking bizarre the way it's organized. And then they don't really have a concept of hell. They have outer darkness. And the only way, like, there are like 2 or 3 ways to get there, and one of them is to be an apostate. Basically, people who have left the religion. That's it. You're out. Hitler? Nope. He's fine. But you left the religion. You're really? It's weird. Like, beyond weird.
So Hitler, responsible for the genocide of over 6 million people. He's good.
Right. Of course. Because he got baptized after the fact. Right. They do their post baptism for the dead. They baptize dead people into the religion so that they're sitting there in the after. They're in this like metaphysical waiting room, waiting for somebody here to be baptized, by proxy for them, so that they can be like, oh, good, thanks. Now I can go into whatever level of this heaven is. And if I convince 5 friends to also join this religion, I can move up a tier. And if they convince 5 friends to join each, then, hey, we all move up a tier. I shit you not, that's how it works. You get extra heaven points for bringing people in. That's why they're so gung-ho to send, 18, 19-year-old kids halfway across the world to try to convince people to join up. And it has nothing to do with the fact that they also ask all these people to give them 10% of their money. Of course. And nothing to do whatsoever with making money.
Oh, not at all. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's more multi-level marketing than multi-level marketing, which is impressive.
There is a good reason that multi-level marketing schemes, so many of them are founded in Utah and have their headquarters here. It's nuts. And it runs rampant through that religion. People get scammed by their religious leaders in local congregations and local ward houses all the time. Yeah, it doesn't even make the news here anymore because it happens so often.
Oh, that's not good.
Oh no, no, it doesn't.
Hell. So, I mean, on top of, like, was it just people not being able to answer your questions? Like, why is this? Is that the
Well,
big thing?
that was a big part of it. That was the start of it. So they couldn't answer basic questions. So yeah, I had a lot of questions going into Sunday school, and when they couldn't answer, they just tell me to leave. But because they couldn't answer, I still wanted an answer. So I went and tried to find it. Now, being, you know, being the 80s and the early 90s, there wasn't an internet. I couldn't just go Google shit. I couldn't just go find somebody who already had the information and and provide it to me. So it was slow going. But it that started me on a path of looking at other religions and what they thought or what they taught, what their books said. So I spent a good long time, you know, while I was technically Mormon, doing a lot of reading and research and investigation into other religions. Now, granted, I lived in Utah, so I couldn't exactly just talk to people of other religions because I didn't know anybody. Like, literally all my neighbors were Mormons except for a few people who were Catholic, and they were just as weird, I thought. So I wasn't really going to get any new information from them. It was just a different flavor of the same thing. So it took reading and research, burying my nose in encyclopedias, trying to figure out what was going on. And it wasn't until I started, I pretty much just abandoned that because I had reached a point where it was, all right, nobody has, real answers to these questions. So I just kind of abandoned it. I couldn't get anywhere with it. I didn't have the resources. I was, a 10-year-old kid. What was I going to do? Who was I going to go talk to about this? So I just kind of let it go. But I dove into the sciences pretty heavy. And I started to find more information and answers there. The fact that you could ask a question and then find an answer was amazing to me. So that's where I started putting more focus, and the more inconsistencies I found between these two schools of thought, the more I realized that one was actually interested in finding information, providing whatever truth could be offered. That was really where you needed to go if you wanted to know what was going on.
All right. So, out of curiosity, like, was it just X being like, "Hey, you want to be on a thing?" That got you Outcast?
No, no, not really. It was a concept he and I had talked about for quite a while. We had tried. I don't want to say tried and failed, but we had tried to launch several different shows. We had tried to launch a show where we just talk about movies or just talk about games or just talk about music. And we had a lot of fun kind of trying those concepts out. But the information and knowledge that we had, while it was, pretty extensive, just bouncing the same thing off each other that we already, you have points of discussion where you both agree and it doesn't go anywhere. So that was that was not really going to go anywhere for us unless we found somebody else. That was something we realized pretty early on, that whatever we do, we need three or a third or fourth person. there has to be one more voice in the crowd, and it has to be something that we don't always 100% agree on. We can get 90% there. If we 90% agree on something, we can go back and forth and talk about and argue the 10%. So we had been discussing different shows, different formats, what we wanted to do, what we wanted to talk about for probably a year and a half before we actually settled on and actually trying to make the Atheist podcast work. And even then, it still took a lot of retooling once we landed there. And we still talk about format and trying to retool things and what we're gonna do to continue to grow the show so we don't get stale. That's still a discussion that happens every 3-4 weeks.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
Like, other than your children's book, which you can find a link to his website in the description if you would like to purchase it for your child or niece, nephew, grandchild. I don't know what you got. Do you have any projects in the work, like your own YouTube channel or more Orion book, maybe?
Yeah, so I do have my own YouTube channel. I've got a channel called Rants and Reels, where I do film reviews. That channel right now is kind of on hiatus. I don't have a lot of time to dedicate to it. I'm hoping to be able to pick that up here pretty soon. I mean, we're coming up on a film award season, and we're going to be inundated with film screenings. So I'm hoping to be able to pick that up here pretty soon. Pick that up again here pretty soon. So keep an eye out for that. Rants and Reels. I do have stuff I'm putting out on bleedingcool.com and on thequeerreview.com.
All right. Yeah, send me the link to your film review channel, and I'll update the description to have that in it as well.
Yeah, absolutely, I can do that.
Yeah, because I definitely want to promote as much as possible. I guess that's like half of the goal here for these interviews. Is
yeah. I mean, to be fair, it's not a very good channel. 90% of that channel is me just trying to figure out format, and the whole idea behind that channel is after I walk out of a screening, for a long time what I would do is I would just put my phone on my dashboard and push record and talk to myself about the movie and run through ideas. Basically, I'm just verbally taking notes on my drive home. So I essentially just started out by saying, okay, well, if I just adjust this a little bit and do a little bit of editing, I can just do a film review in the car on my way home. I stopped doing that while I was driving because the audio was pretty terrible. The audio still isn't very good. Getting good audio in a car is surprisingly tricky. Unless you want to buy equipment, which I'm not going to buy equipment for this. Let's be honest. I'm not going to buy equipment for something like that. Not until I actually figure out what the hell I'm doing.
That's fair. And of course, now you've got me wondering how car theists do it at all. I mean, not that their content isn't garbage from the jump, but still.
Well, the first thing they usually do is park, which that's half the battle right there. The second thing they do is most of them have a good microphone on a camcorder. I'm just using my phone. So that's the big difference. That's the big difference. You're not going to get good audio out of a phone.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate.
Right.
Well, but yeah, I mean, like, so from your from your perspective, what do you think the overall kind of goal of Utah Outcasts is, or what's the goal you go into it with?
So our first goal each and every week,
Hello, motorcycle.
wait for the motorcycle to go by. Sorry, I live on a busy intersection. Our first goal going into every single week is really just to entertain each other. We want more than anything to make each other laugh. So that's always our first goal. You know, the world is usually shitty. The news is even shittier. If we take it seriously, it's just going to depress us. So our goal is to try to find a way to take whatever we're talking about, whatever subject, topic, news, story, and find a way to to make it to make it amusing, to make it entertaining for each other. So that's where we start. Secondary goal, of course, we want, because people are watching us, we want to try to impart whatever information we might have or whatever insight we might have, however misguided it might be. You know, we're still going to try to put information out there, or put our viewpoint or our interpretation out there. So that's, that is also what we do. I think sometimes we have some insight into things, or at the very least, we have a platform, so we're going to use it. Granted, we only have a platform because we decided to build ourselves a platform, but we've got it, now we're going to use it. So that was the interesting thing that we discovered going on. As soon as we started to get, when we got from like 100, viewers or subscribers or listeners to a couple thousand, that was when we realized that we also had some level of responsibility to address some issues. So sometimes sometimes it's not just make each other laugh. Sometimes it's, let's try to actually address the topic in a serious manner. But if we can pepper that with dick jokes, we will. That's probably my fault entirely, but that's still.
There's worse things to be blamed for.
Right. If you got a serious heavy subject, everything goes down a little bit better with dick.
That right there itself is a dick joke. But I mean, speaking of dick jokes, Doorknob Head has a what I can assume is a pair of asymmetrical boobies for us. So there's that.
Those are. I mean, those areolas need some attention. Yeah. See a doctor. Just get them checked out. At least, I mean,
it may be even as simple as, not tightening one side of the bra so much. I don't know. I'm not someone who, knows much about the mammary glands other than they're a lot of fun. But I mean, like, is there anything you've done that you're particularly proud of? And this could be on your film review channel, Utah Outcasts, blogs, or really anything you've done that, you put out there for the world.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff that I'm really proud of. Look, writing and publishing a book. Again, sorry about the traffic. Writing and publishing a book is something I am immensely proud of because it is hard as shit. So taking that on, yes, I am unbelievably proud of that. I have done so many interviews I'm not going to say I'm really proud of all the the celebrity interviews I've done, but yeah, no, those aren't really anything to be proud of. But I've put them out. People have had fun with them. You know, I recently published not really an op-ed, but I published a piece a week or so, maybe 2 weeks ago, on Bleeding Cool about Charlie Chaplin's The Great Dictator and why it is still a very important film, being one of the first big satires to tackle fascism, and with the fact that we now have a rising fascist movement, not only just in this country but around the world, it's still a very, very important film. So yeah, I'm proud of that article. You know, I'm proud that I've got two kids that have not died yet. So that's, you know, my kids are still alive and are surviving, and I've managed to help keep them that way. So yeah, I'm pretty proud of that.
All right. Let's see. Native Atheist wants to know what you're drinking.
Buffalo Trace.
I have no idea what that is.
Buffalo Trace, a good Kentucky bourbon, one of the best.
See, I can't stand liquor. I was
Really?
I was way too stupid about drinking it when I was younger. So, like, now I have the ultimate gag reflex. Last time I tried to drink vodka, it hit the back of my throat and just came straight back out.
Oh no, yeah, that's
not
good.
So
We
I
all
stick to beer.
we all did stupid things when we were teenagers. Yeah, I don't know if I can touch wine coolers again.
All right. I mean, hey, what if you can't touch it anymore? You just can't touch it anymore. It's, you know. But yeah, so I'm kind of curious about this.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you still have trouble getting over from Mormonism? Like sexual repression, fear of hell, or anything like that?
Oh no, I'm well over all the sexual repression. I got over that pretty quick. There's not a lot. I got out of it. At a young enough age, really. I realized it was all bullshit. Young enough that it didn't really take hold. So yeah, there's not really that much. I'm trying to think if there's anything like really culturally that gets in there. No, not really. Nothing. I was gonna say it's like, oh, my affinity for bland food, but no, no, no. I hate bland food.
So no unseasoned pork chops.
No, no, no. I'm sorry. If you skip your seasoning, I'm not gonna touch it, and I'm not gonna touch just potatoes and cheese. You serious? No, no potatoes and cheese. Because they don't even really use like good cheese.
Like, are you talking not good cheese, like the plasticky Aldi version, or?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. No, we're talking about Mormon food is pretty much the epitome of Mormon food is undercooked hash browns with American cheese and cornflakes with no seasoning. Like they don't even like throw a pepper grinder across the top of it to just try to make it look nice.
not even pepper. Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh, that's pass.
Yeah. Yeah, so they don't even do good food. So
Uh, oh. So, what about shunning? Did you experience any of that when you were like, "Fuck this, I'm out"?
Oh, yeah. All the yeah. That is a very real thing. That is a very big thing. Fortunately, I didn't care because to start with, the people who do that, I didn't like them anyway. So when you're a kid and the people you don't like shun you, cool. I don't feel too bad about that. So I don't get invited to birthday parties. Well, I now I just don't get the invitation as opposed to where I got the invitation and decided I didn't want to go anyway. So it happened. It happened a lot. But I generally didn't care. Now, what I do care about, because this is the part that pisses me off, because my kids did not grow up in this church, in this religion. The shunning extends to kids because there are kids that live in my neighborhood that they would not play with my children because they didn't go to church. They were not members of the same church. So they were actively told, no, we can't play with you. So those are the things that piss me off. Shun me all you want, but don't be a dick to my kids.
Yeah, I mean, up until you saying that, I was kind of thinking it was more of a reward than a punishment. But I
Yeah,
mean,
to a certain extent. Yeah. Oh no, you're shunned. Now you don't have to associate with the people that you don't like. Granted, there are people. This happens to people, and they are shunned by their families, and that is a terrible, terrible thing to do. Don't shun your kids. Don't shun your children. But it happens. I've seen it happen. I know people. I know people who were kicked out of their houses because they decided they no longer had a faith and they were not going to simply go along with it anymore. It's a terrible thing. I got off easy. I got off lucky because my family thought that was shitty too, and they didn't care.
hmm, no. Well, um, that's all the questions I've got for you, man. Do you want to? I mean, I said I like doing starting and ending the same way. So, could you shill yourself, your book, channel, all that?
Yeah, you can find my book, the Tales of Weirderland, on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, wherever books are sold, mostly online. Unless you want to go into a bookstore and ask them to order my book, that's cool too. Otherwise, hey, if you don't want to order a book, I'm not going to be offended. You can find us on Utah Outcasts. Our YouTube is out there, and I think we just crossed over like 2,000 videos. So we have like 2,000 clips right now out there. You can also find me on Rants and Reels. You can find things I've written on Bleeding Cool and on the Queer Review. You can also find me occasionally guesting on the Nerd Dome podcast, which is a really fun comic book uh, nerd culture podcast I do with some friends of mine from time to time.
Nice. All right. Well, thanks for coming on. I appreciate it. It's been a fun talk.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. And it's about an hour and a half now, or 2.5 hours, so hour and a half till Utah Outcast goes live.
Yeah, about about 2 hours. About 2 hours, and we start doing some of our live. We do a live stream with our Patreons before we start recording our main show. So that's a lot of fun. So if you come on over and you give us at least $1 a month, you can once a week join our pre-show live stream, and we will do segments and discussions and have chats with with all of the people who want to have chats with us.
There you go. All right. Yeah. It's funny because I interviewed Felicia a couple of nights ago. She was a shitload of fun.
Felicia's great. You can get her going on a subject, get her fired up, and she will take off.
I learned that. Then I interviewed you tonight. All I need is X, and I've completed the set. But yeah, seriously, thanks for coming on. This has been a lot of fun. So everybody, is the main show going to be live, or are you just going to record and then upload later? I'm not sure how that goes.
So we do a live stream for our patrons, and then we go offline and we record for like 3 hours. So all of the clips that come up throughout the week, we record them all in one night. So we'll do a good 3 hour session until we can't take it anymore.
In today's political climate, I'm surprised you can go that long.
There are a lot of subjects that we just avoid. We take a wide berth around them, because hey, let's be honest. There are people and shows that cover some of these current events a lot better than we can. So why tread over that ground? Let's go for some of the better low hanging fruit that we can have fun with.
That's perfectly fair. Well, everyone keep an eye out throughout the week. You can see Kyle again and again and again when X uploads the different clips. I'm not sure how much control you and Felicia have over the channel. It's pretty much just X that runs the show.
X is kind of the captain of the ship. Early on we tried kind of trading off. Hey, you go take a break. Let me run the show. I'm terrible at running a show. I can do it, but I'm terrible at it. So we just leave it in his hands. He's good at what he does.
Well, it'll happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, thanks for coming on. It was a lot of fun. So everyone in the chat, be sure to head on down to the description, click the different links. Kyle's Twitter's on there, YouTube Outcasts. Soon enough, the what is it? Rants and reviews. You said was your
rants and reels. Yep.
Yeah, reels. Yeah.
Yep. You can find a bunch of the different reviews I've put on there. It's not very good. No, I have fun. I have fun with it. I'm not doing it for subscriptions or views or anything at this point. It's an exercise. So if you want to watch me exercise my reviews, please go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as I get the link from Kyle here, I'll update the description, and that'll be there. Also, his website for his book is in the description as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But that's going to do it for this one, everyone. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you in the next one.
Thank you for having me out. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe.